All right, all right. Settle down, you lot. Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah, so you sent us your sources.
And frankly, some of it was proper garbage.
Mhm.
But hey, we're here and we're going to cut through the crap.
We are going to serve up the nasty bits you won't hear anywhere else, the uncomfortable stuff.
Look, if you still think politicians tell the truth and experts always know their shit,
You might want to just tune out now, seriously.
could have said it better. We've waded through the digital sewer you guys sent in.
And our mission, which you're already part of just by listening, is to drag the genuinely uncomfortable truths out.
Yeah, forget your nice, clean, sanitized news feeds. This is raw, unfiltered, maybe a bit fucked up.
Tonight's glorious plunge into the muck features expert class and establishment lies.
Great title, by the way. I love it already.
And a sprawling Joe Rogan experience. You know, the one with Dave Smith and Douglas Murray?
Oh, yeah. Get ready for clashing egos, opinions that'll make your skin crawl.
And enough unfiltered takes to send your woke aunt into a complete meltdown.
Definitely. And a heads up, if you're under 18, piss off. Seriously. Grown-ups only.
Yeah, we're not babysitting any, lingering innocence here. Consider yourselves warned, you potential degenerates.
So our twisted goal for this little adventure...
We're gonna rip apart these arguments.
Yeah.
Mainstream narratives, so-called experts.
Experts were wrong half the damn time anyway.
Exactly, and why everyone's finally starting to smell the bullshit.
We're going in hard, fast, and with the kind of honesty that gets you canceled these days. Let's light this dumpster fire.
Okay, let's get into it. This public discourse mess.
Yeah, both sources paint this picture, right? Absolute chaos.
It's just screaming. Endless screaming matches.
Yeah.
Zero actual thought, especially on TV.
Cable news is basically, like that source said, a toddler play date with more spittle.
Huh. Yeah, sums up those brain-dead arguments perfectly. Total asshats.
And what's really kind of fascinating is that tension in the Rogan clip.
Right, the whole, stated goal of rational discussion.
Versus the reality, which is it's just entertainment. People want the conflict.
Totally. People tune in for the verbal cage fight, not some, thoughtful seminar. Go figure.
And then there's the pearl clutching about who gets on these platforms, like Rogan's.
Yeah, the whining about it being tilted against the official line on Israel or Ukraine.
As if questioning the narrative they shove down our throats is some kind of crime now? Give me a break.
Well, it does raise a point, though, doesn't it, about these platforms?
What, are they really open? Or just another echo chamber?
Exactly. Did they end up giving more airtime to the critics, the wild critics, as they put it?
Instead of the usual pom-pom waving cheerleaders for the establishment. Yeah, maybe they do. Good.
It highlights that tension,
Yeah.
Between free speech and, controlling the story.
Which brings us neatly to questioning the experts. The whole damn freak show.
Yeah, like this Daryl Cooper thing, the Churchill controversy.
Seriously, the guy gets hammered for making a joke with a mate about Churchill being the secret villain.
I mean, the context sounds like a joke.
Yeah.
Definitely jest.
But apparently, that's an existential threat now. A bit of historical banter. Let's cut the crap.
Well, when you connect it to historical revisionism, especially someone like Churchill, people get visceral. It pokes the bear.
And the experts say, no historian agrees, line. About Hitler downplaying his anti-Semitism in the 30s.
Yeah, what about that?
Who gives a flying fuck what they say? Remember COVID? The lab leak?
Oh, God, yeah. Total 180. First, it's conspiracy, then. Maybe not.
Exactly. These same asshat experts were screeching it was racist bullshit. Now look.
That lab leak flip-flop definitely damaged trust. Hugely.
No wonder people are pissed off and telling these know-it-alls to get stuffed.
When the people claiming to know best are proven spectacularly wrong, it opens the door right for other explanations.
Even the weird ones.
Even the weird ones. Fringe views go mainstream.
Which expert class and establishment lies nails. The establishment is losing its shit, losing control of the narrative.
Well, maybe if the official story wasn't so full of holes.
Exactly. If it wasn't such steaming bullshit, people wouldn't be poking it. Just a thought.
And the consequence of being lied to. Repeatedly.
Question everything.
Total erosion of trust. It just chips away. People start thinking, okay, what else? What else have they been lying about?
Which leads us straight to the Gaza blockade discussion.
Oh, boy.
Some absolute tool in the transcript says, you gotta visit Gaza to comment.
Ugh, that old chestnut.
What a steaming pile of donkey crap. World Bank, GDP drop, 40 freaking %.
You don't need a plane ticket to see that's economic devastation?
Let's cut the crap. You don't need to personally time travel to Nazi Germany to talk about it, do you?
It's a classic silencing tactic. Absurd. Of course, being there adds a perspective, but it's not a requirement for an informed opinion, not when the data is so stark.
So the claim is, it's just to stop weapons.
That's the official line. A valid security concern, sure.
Okay. Partly, maybe. But is that the whole story? What about keeping the population on a diet, economically strangling them?
Well, the sheer length of the blockade, the scale of it, its impact, it raises serious questions. Is it proportionate? Is it only about security?
And the absolute nerve to say criticizing the death toll means you're, like, excusing Hamas.
Yeah, that's a common conflation.
Fuck that noise. Pointing out that bombing a packed city, knowing innocents will die.
And suggesting maybe that's intentional or at least reckless to the point of criminality.
Yeah. That's not waving a Hamas flag. It's saying the methods are fucked up. Innocent people, kids, are dying.
It's vital. You have to separate criticizing Israeli government actions from supporting Hamas terrorism. They are not the same thing.
That whole intentional murder versus collateral damage thing, it's messy.
It gets to the core ethical nightmare of modern urban warfare. It really does.
So bottom line, it all comes back to trust, right? Or the lack of it.
Pretty much. Leaders lie, experts get it wrong. People get suspicious,
Yep.
understandably.
And yeah, maybe some go down weird rabbit hole. But maybe the establishment should try, I don't know, not lying so much.
Maybe. Smearing anyone who asks uncomfortable questions just fuels the fire. Makes them look like they're hiding something.
Right, okay. Specific controversies. This Daryl Cooper, Ian Carroll thing.
The non-historians peddling dangerous counter-history.
Yeah, about Hitler and Churchill. The establishment's clearly got its knickers in a proper twist over this. Let's cut the crap.
Well, the criticism focuses on their lack of, academic historian credentials and the revisionist angle.
The dangerous label, though. That smells like fear. Fear of losing control of the history books.
But hang on, the counter is that Cooper is supposedly incredibly knowledgeable, right? Even without the PhD.
Yeah, and that story about him ducking the debate with Andrew Roberts.
Yeah.
Out of respect.
Doesn't exactly sound like a dangerous charlatan, does it? More like self-aware.
Maybe. But look, formal qualifications aren't everything, but they do mean something. Peer review, rigorous study.
Sure. But what about Pat Buchanan? Wrote a whole book shitting on Churchill. Is he not allowed an opinion either?
Apparently he got leveled in debates with actual historians.
So what? Does that mean he should shut up? Isn't the point of free speech allowing different views, even if they poke the sacred cows?
Well, Buchanan's a commentator, not a specialist historian. Debates highlight that gap in deep subject knowledge sometimes. Diverse views are good, but ideally they're backed by solid evidence.
Okay, but then the accusation gets heavier. That these guys are mainstreaming dangerous ideas.
As a backlash to woke insanity, supposedly. Flirting with racialism, Holocaust denial. That's serious fucking territory.
It is. That's a grave accusation. The worry is reacting against one extreme pushes people towards another, maybe even embracing really harmful historical ideologies.
The line can be thin. Disturbingly thin.
But then you get the defense of Cooper, that specific podcast. He didn't downplay Nazi atrocities.
So are we just lumping everyone together? Anyone who questions the narrative gets branded a secret Nazi sympathizer? Let's cut the crap with that too.
That's the danger, isn't it? Concept creep. Broad categories, sweeping generalizations. You got to look at specific arguments.
Avoid the knee-jerk labeling.
And the point about the Hitler comparison, totally overused in U.S. politics.
Preach. Everything is literally Hitler. It's lost all meaning. It's pathetic.
It's lazy rhetoric, not serious analysis. Waters down the real horror.
Then the other claims. This is all a tactic to downplay Hitler and always to do down Churchill. Hitler keeping anti-Semitism down for popular support versus privately.
And citing discredited historians like David Irving as the source. What a tangled mess.
Yeah, these are complex historical debates. You need to check the evidence, the sources. Irving's name is a massive red flag.
But wait, there's a prediction Cooper's upcoming WWII series won't downplay Nazi stuff.
So maybe, just maybe, we should wait and see what the guy actually says, instead of freaking out based on speculation.
Novel idea. Judge the work when it exists.
Right. Ukraine is Israel. The media circus.
Oh, yeah. Rogan asking if he's had enough guests supporting the wars.
Oh, no. What the hell does that even mean?
Yeah.
Is there a quota, a pro-war scorecard we need to fill?
It just shows how divisive these conflicts are. Enough support is totally subjective. What balance are you even aiming for?
Apparently his show is seen as tilted. towards the idea that maybe Israel's actions are barbaric.
Well, yeah, that's a strong word, barbaric, highly charged.
Shocking, I know. That some people aren't just blindly cheering on military actions that kill thousands of civilians. Maybe some of us have a fucking conscience left.
It reflects that deep concern about the human cost, the ethics of warfare in cities.
The appeal to authority, bullshit. Mentioning the CIA director on NATO expansion or the NATO head on Putin's treaty.
Suddenly that's a logical fallacy.
Give me a break. These are the guys supposedly in the know. Acknowledging their warnings isn't blind acceptance, it's context.
It's tricky. You shouldn't just accept things because authority said it, but ignoring relevant expertise when trying to understand policy, that's dumb too.
And arguing that focusing on Ukrainian corruption matters because we're sending billions?
Well, yeah, if it's our tax dollars.
Damn right, we should talk about where it's going. If the system's dodgy, we need to know.
Corruption is a legit concern with that level of aid. Transparency, accountability, basic stuff.
And this idea that some ideas just resonate more. It's not just algorithms.
Could it be? People are genuinely pissed off about being lied to.
And are actively looking for answers elsewhere. Maybe people aren't the easily led sheep the establishment thinks they are.
It's probably both, right? Algorithms amplify, but there has to be underlying appeal, public sentiment experience that drives demand for certain narratives.
Love the anecdote, though. Moderator asks, why did World War II begin?
Simple answer, Hitler invaded Poland.
Sometimes you just gotta cut the crap. Cut through the intellectual masturbation. Remember the obvious.
Focus on the core facts. Nuance is good, but basics first.
Okay, now the really nasty stuff. Contentious points. Disagreements.
Trump versus Biden on Ukraine.
Trump calling Zelensky a dictator, saying he started the war. What a fucking clown. Utter bullshit.
It shows the polarization. Trump's comments fly directly in the face of the consensus view of Russia as the aggressor.
And the U.S. involvement in Maidan. The funding.
Versus the counter-narrative. Genuine popular uprising against corruption.
Which is it? Whose reality do we buy? It's like nailing jelly to a wall. This stuff is messy.
Maidan's complex. Competing narratives about external influence versus grassroots movement need multiple sources.
Comparing it to China, funding protests in Mexico.
Highlights potential hypocrisy, right? Big powers meddling when it suits them.
It raises questions about consistency in foreign policy. Justification.
And Qatar's influence in the U.S., lack of outrage.
Yeah, good point. Why the double standard? Different rules for different players.
Probably lots of factors. Geopolitics, media framing, public perception of the countries involved.
Then the claim Israel was begging Qatar to fund Hamas.
Versus Hamas being voted in after the withdrawal.
Two totally different stories. Same history. How is that even possible? You can't make this shit up.
Shows how contested the history is. Need to check the evidence each side uses.
And did Israel deliberately prop up Hamas to screw the peace process?
Smotrich calling Hamas an asset. Jesus.
That's some dark, fucked up realpolitik if true. Hardly contentious claim, massive implications. Smotrich's alleged, quote, if accurate, lends it weight, but needs context.
Right, let's face the really gut-wrenching part. October 7th, the aftermath.
Absolute shitstorm, different reactions everywhere, accusations flying, making excuses for Hamas, siding with terrorists.
Toxic atmosphere, blame, misinformation, everywhere.
Horrific attacks, rightly condemned. But the response since. Deeply divisive, bias accusations from all sides, lack of empathy claims.
Comparing it to Manchester, Bataclan, Pulse, victims got more sympathy, less questioning.
Yeah, and the believe all women thing suddenly vanishing for Israeli rape victims. If true, that's utterly sickening. A disgraceful double standard.
That comparison raises uncomfortable questions. Consistency of empathy, media coverage. The allegations about Israeli women victims are deeply disturbing. Need investigation.
Then the argument. A generation brainwashed to see Israel as uniquely evil, leading to lack of sympathy.
Coupled with Hamas openly aiming to annihilate Jews.
It's a toxic brew. Hatred, revisionism, outright anti-Semitism.
That claim of indoctrination is serious, has deep roots. Hamas's charter, their statements, underscore the ideological nature, the perceived existential threat for Israelis.
But the counter-argument, there was a huge outpouring of sympathy initially.
And criticizing the Israeli government's response isn't the same as being pro-Hamas or anti-Semitic.
Which seems like the only sane position, frankly. You have to be able to separate the two.
Absolutely crucial. Condemn Hamas terror and have concerns about the humanitarian cost of Israel's military actions. Many people hold both views. Sympathy for victims, concern about the response.
At least there's agreement Hamas is a death cult. One damn thing.
That description reflects their extreme ideology, their tactics.
Okay, the 2005 Gaza disengagement. Were Palestinians given a state? Competing stories again.
The blockade argument, it's only because Hamas fires rockets.
Versus the devastating economic data from the World Bank. It's a he said, she said nightmare. Real people suffering.
Disengagement, blockade, highly contested history and politics, different narratives on missed opportunities, justifications, consequences.
And this stupid claim you need to visit to understand. Utter bullshit. We covered that.
Yeah. And comparing Gaza to a concentration camp.
Immediately countered by the young population demographic.
Even the language is weaponized. Highly charged terms like that obscure reality, maybe intentionally. Gaza's situation is severe, but historical comparisons need care.
Now, the war itself, one of the most brutal wars.
Countered by stats from Syria saying it's not the most brutal.
Who the fuck keeps score? Seriously. It's a race to the bottom of human suffering. What kind of sick comparison is that?
The suffering in Gaza is immense, undeniable. Comparisons risk minimizing the specific horror there.
Questions about Hamas death tolls. Always there.
Israel's stated aims: get hostages, destroy Hamas.
Near impossible aims, given Hamas tactics, embedding in civilian areas.
Vicious cycle, seemingly unwinnable. The challenges are huge. Accuracy of casualty figures from an active participant in the conflict needs scrutiny too.
The classic dilemma. Fight terrorists, maybe create more, do nothing, let them grow.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. No easy answers. Enduring problem of counterterrorism.
Accusations of collective punishment. Constantly.
IDF intentionally killing civilians versus collateral damage. That core conflict.
And the analogy. Blow up a building for one killer, knowing innocents are inside.
Is that intentional murder? Or just the fucked up reality of war? That's the moral outrage point.
Collective punishment is illegal internationally. Big point of contention. The distinction between targeting civilians and unintended deaths in operations against groups like Hamas, legally and ethically fraught.
Then the counterclaims. Hamas booby traps buildings, uses hospitals, schools.
Weapons storage, tunnels under civilian infrastructure.
IDF using munitions known for secondary explosions.
Grim picture, urban warfare, civilians trapped, no fault of their own. Tragic.
Hamas tactics definitely complicate things, increase civilian risk massively. IDF operations, munitions choices also have direct impact.
Briefly, the history. Centuries of this shit. Bush pushing elections in '05, Hamas not winning everywhere, the '07 coup.
Selective empathy accusations, Israeli life versus Palestinian life, blockade since '67 for many. Protests against Hamas exist.
Zionist militias using terror historically, Algerian model influence, Jews having no other home, Palestinian leaders making bad calls.
Immense, heartbreaking suffering in Gaza goes on and on.
To the never-ending shit show. No easy answers anywhere. Understanding the deep history, the different perspectives, the grievances, it's essential just to start grasping it.
Okay, last bit. Conspiracy theories. The cesspool.
Wesley Clark. Overthrowing governments. Libya.
Wolfowitz. Pearl. The clean break memo. Shadowy figures.
Blaming them is just anti-Semitic bullshit, thinly veiled.
But neoconservative ideology is real. It had influence.
Murky, paranoid world. Accusations, agendas, little solid proof.
Attributing complex events to a few individuals. Risky oversimplification. Can slide into conspiracy theories. Neocon influence is real, but one factor among many. The point about anti-Semitic undertones in some theories targeting Jewish names? Serious concern. Needs careful thought.
So wrapping this glorious dumpster fire, what the hell did we learn?
That everything's contested. Wildly different takes on everything. Israel-Palestine, experts, truth itself.
Yeah, world's drowning in information, and frankly, a lot of it is bullshit. Total, outright bullshit.
Deep disagreements. Contrasting views on causes, ethics, reliability of info. No easy answers in this mess. None.
So you, listening, good luck digesting this clusterfuck.
Maybe it makes you question every news report. Good.
Maybe you want to dive down the historical rabbit hole. Or just get drunk.
Whatever it is, don't just swallow the pap they feed you. Question everything. Especially the convenient lies.
Consider the bias in every source. Including us, obviously.
Delve into history critically,
Yeah.
skeptically, seek multiple views, even the uncomfortable ones. Trying to understand this rests on you.
All right, you magnificent bastards. That's your dose of unvarnished reality for this deep dive.
We told you up front, adults only. Handle the ugly truth.
Now get out there. Try not to believe every damn thing you hear. Until next time, stay cynical. Stay dangerous.
And for God's sake, don't be a goddamn sheep.